Hey friends, welcome to the Strangers in Common podcast. I hope this finds you well, but if you're not well, that's okay. I'm always here for you. So this episode is going to be a hard listen. And I'll obviously get into it as the episode starts, but we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So we're going to go ahead and get to know somebody that you should know a little bit, and that person is me. All right, so this one is probably not going to be easy to share. It may not be easy to listen to. In all honesty, I'm not going to go into like graphic detail or anything like that, or I'll try not to, at least. But I feel it's important for a couple reasons to get this story out. First of all, if you feel that this is gonna trigger you in any way, or you feel uncomfortable listening to it, I definitely recommend not listening to this episode. And I know that's weird to say, for a podcast to tell people, hey, maybe tune this one out. But we are going to discuss sexual abuse, on a minor, which is not an easy subject to broach or talk about or even listen to, in all honesty. I feel this is important because, one, those situations don't get talked about a lot. And I know, there's shows and stuff to discuss it. There's shows like, Law and Order, SVU, that talk about it a lot. But in reality, in day-to-day conversations, it is not something that is discussed. It's something that is kept secret. It is something that people are embarrassed to share. It is something families are embarrassed to share. I feel a lot of times that the person it happens to is so ashamed that they don't want to tell anybody. It could be any number of reasons, and we'll kind of discuss why I didn't, in a little bit. But the second reason I feel this is important, because while it doesn't get talked about often, when it happens to a boy or a man, it really doesn't get talked about. And if it does, it gets turned it gets turned into something else. It gets turned into, oh, well, he's just a boy. It's in his nature. Or, oh, good job, it was an older woman, whatever it may be, he's a stud or whatever. And that's not the case. I mean, it's abuse straight out. If you're young, you don't have the capacity to be engaging in that type of stuff. If you're older and it happens, much like everybody else, if you don't want it to happen, you have every right to say no. And it doesn't it doesn't change just because of your gender, to be perfectly honest. So I feel that by sharing my story, it'll help, maybe someone, at least one, maybe realize that, hey, I can talk about this, or I could come forward about this, or or just make them feel that they're not in it by themselves. Because um, I felt when mine happened that nobody would understand, that that people didn't get it, or that I would be judged. So hopefully, being able to hear somebody talk about it will give somebody that there's other people out there. Um, it's funny because I've replayed the scenarios too many times to count. I've thought about how I would talk about it, and had things set in my head, and it's still not easy. Like it's not even easy to make myself vulnerable and put myself out there. So we'll just kind of jump into it, and I don't know where it'll go. I don't know how long this episode's going to be, uh, anything like that. We'll just kind of play it by ear. I don't remember how long or how young I was when it started. I was young. I know that. Um, I was I was sexually abused by a female family member for many years. It started in elementary. I do know that. It lasted up through junior high. Um, eh, it's looking back. It started out by testing the waters, and I'm not gonna name names. I know that I have family that listens to the podcast, so if they want to talk to me, they can. If not, that's fine too. But it started out by testing waters with the kids in the family. She had a garage, and in the garage there was like a an attic, I guess, or a crawl space kind of. That had a ladder going up to it where you could store stuff, obviously. Um, and up there, she had a bunch of Playboys, and would be like, "Oh yeah, you guys can go up and look at them," And we were young, mind you, like we were, like I said, elementary school kids. Like that's not shit elementary school kids should be looking at. And we were like, "Oh yeah, naked girls, stuff like that." We were excited for it. Um, Looking back on it, it was obviously like it feels like it was a way to groom us into being okay looking at that, if it was, if she presented that same thing. But at the time, obviously, we didn't. Nobody thought that way, right? So it started there. Um, it quickly turned into other stuff, and it was the way it happened wasn't overwhelming, I guess, or wasn't, I guess, straightforward would be the best way to put it. So a lot of times when it happened, it was it was a scenario that played out. It was, I want you to close your eyes and pretend you're dreaming. Whatever you feel or whatever you hear, you're gonna, it's gonna be in the dream that you're having. It was played out like that, and so it started. Sorry, guys. It started with me having to close my eyes. It started with me having to pretend I was dreaming. And I didn't know how to react to that. Um, I I was young, and I and the thing is, I didn't want to upset people. So the reason I was that way is I growing up. I've told before we were poor. My parents were young parents. They struggled for money. They struggled to take care of three of us. So there was fighting in my house, not physical, more just yelling, stuff like that. It happens with every married couple. Everyone fights it. It's normal as it can be, I suppose. So with that happening, I did not like to create waves with any adults. I I didn't like the fighting. I didn't want to be disrespectful. I didn't want to tell people no. So so when she did that, I didn't want to say no. I just let it happen. Um, and it evolved to where she would say, "Okay, I'm gonna be the one that's gonna close my eyes and pretend I'm dreaming, and I'm gonna tell you what to do in my dream, and I want you to do it." And it went back and forth between those two scenarios for years. And it would be, I'd like to say, I could have just been like, no, I don't want to go over. But I couldn't because I flat out got told, like, if you tell your parents you don't want to come over here, I'm going to tell them what you did. And as a young kid being told that after knowing what's going on in my house, like, how the hell could I say I didn't want to go over? I wasn't trying to cause a fight. I wasn't trying to cause any issues. Um, so even when I didn't want to, I would ask if I could go stay the night. And I'd go stay the night, and I would get sexually abused, or I would have to sorry, I would have to do stuff to her. Um, there were times that um, it was a 2-level house, so an upstairs and a basement. Um, her bedroom was downstairs, and there were times like she would she would bring a boyfriend or a guy home, uh, and make sure that I was downstairs, and she would tell me, don't leave, don't go upstairs, nothing. And she would keep the door open and have sex with this person, while I was right there. Um, like, she knew I could see. And again, as a young kid, it sounds stupid, but like, you're curious, right? You look. You're not thinking, oh, I don't need to be watching this, or maybe you are, but you look, and that that happened on many occasions. It it affected me in in so many ways that y- you know 30 years later, however long it's been, still I'm still dealing with. You know, I I'm in school and I'm in elementary and junior high, and I'm getting picked on the, because they're kids, and that's what kids do, unfortunately, because that's how they're raised. But as I'm getting picked on, my mindset during all this is, oh my God, they know what this person is doing to me. They're picking on me because somehow they can see it. They can see what she is doing to me, and they're picking on me because of it. And that messes with your head so much. Like, you know, it makes you it makes you question everything about yourself. You know, um, you know, the fighting at home. I it was one of those things where I just I wanted stuff to be happy. So there's no way I was gonna bring any of it up at home. I had no way of telling anybody, and even if I did, I don't really know if I would have said anything, to be perfectly honest with you, because there was so much guilt and embarrassment in it. Like nobody talked about that stuff, you know? And again, like I said at the beginning, as a guy, if you had any kind of sexual contact with anyone, it was almost, I guess, almost a badge of honor, which felt really fucking weird as a kid, knowing that and knowing that it was a family member that had it. Like, how is that a badge of honor that somebody touched me when I was little, or did stuff that I know they weren't supposed to do. Like, so I I dealt with that for a long time. Um, when I hit high school, I don't know if I don't know if I got too old for her, or if I finally found the right group of friends where I was able to build a little bit of confidence and be like, I'm not going over, because in my high school years, I pretty much stopped caring about everything. Um, it was very much uh, a withdrawal from everything. I found a core group of friends, and that's when honestly I started smoking weed and drinking and stuff. So I didn't care if I went over or not, and I didn't hear too much. I do know at one family gathering that it was standing outside. I think I was sneaking a cigarette, to be honest with you. And she came out, and all those uneasy feelings were there. And she looked at me, and she goes, do you remember all those weird dreams you used to have? Like, she asked me that, and I looked at her like she was out of her goddamn mind. Like, I knew damn well those weren't dreams. Like, I'm not I'm not fucking stupid. I didn't dream all that stuff up. And like, she had the audacity to make it seem like oh yeah, you used to just hang out and have nightmares at my house. Like, no remorse whatsoever. No care that that oh, sorry, that she fucking destroyed a child. Like, oh, uh, just just absolutely nothing. Like, almost enjoyment that she knew this and I couldn't say anything about it. Like, it it was it was weird. It made me sick to my stomach. I you know, I didn't have any interaction with her after that. Um that was the really the one and only encounter after I got into high school that I had with her. And I distanced myself as much as I could. Um you know, because of all that happening, and I'm sure there's a shit ton more details I could get into, but that stuff's not really necessary, to be honest with you. Um, but after high school, it in the age I grew up in, we didn't really talk about anything. We didn't have social media. We didn't have podcasts. We had shit like Oprah and stuff like that, but you couldn't really relate to any of that stuff. Um, and therapy wasn't. It was there, but as a poor family, that shit wasn't gonna happen. Like, in all honesty, you know, even when I had my own insurance, that wasn't gonna happen. So it it messed me up trying to navigate relationships. Like how do I trust a woman to have a relationship, when the only one modeled is that. Like, how do I know you're not gonna hurt me? So, to be honest, a lot of my relationships after high school and stuff were me being kind of an asshole. Like, it was, well, you know what? I'm gonna hurt or use you before you have a chance to do it to me. And that's fucked up because eh, from me being traumatized, I just decided I was gonna, like, I didn't intentionally set out to hurt anybody. Like, it was just kind of use them and throw away. Like, I don't care if you had feelings or not. So by me being hurt, I was in turn hurting other people, which is fucking terrible, and I feel awful about it. Um, eh, I went that way. I had a couple longer term relationships that were not great until I hit the one where I tried to open up about stuff, and the person pretty much told me, I don't have time to listen to your bullshit. I don't have time to listen to your drama. And that fucking crushed me. Like, the first person in 20 something years I tried to open up to pretty much said, yeah, fuck you. Um, and that's when I finally decided to get into therapy, and in therapy, I opened up about all this. I had to write it down. I had to talk about it, and um, the one thing that stuck with me when I went to therapy. There's a lot of stuff that stuck with me, to be honest, because I wouldn't be where I am today without it. But one of the things that caught me off guard really with it is when I was talking to my therapist about it, she asked me, "Did you enjoy it?" And at first, I looked at this lady like, well, what the fuck kind of question is that? Why the hell would you ask me that? I was abused. Why would you ask me if I enjoyed it? And I sat there and I broke down because, oh, Jesus. The fact of the matter is, yeah, I did. And when I when I told her that, you know, she explained to me that that's normal. It it's a physical response from your body. You don't have control over that, right? So it it was something that I had a lot of guilt for because how do you justify feeling good about something that was wrong? Like, but once it was explained to me that, hey, it's natural. Your your body your body's reaction, you don't have control over that stuff. You can say no, you could tell them you don't like it, but if you have a physical response from it, you have no mental control over that. And I think a lot of people probably struggle with that part because if you're if you're sexually assaulted and you you physically enjoy it or you orgasm or whatever it may be, like that screws you up in the head because you know with every fiber of your being that that's wrong. You know that like that doesn't happen. That shouldn't happen. Like you don't want to be in that situation and then your body is giving a completely different signal. And nobody tells you it's okay. Like nobody says, "Hey, it's normal. Hey, that happens." It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you wanted it. And I held that for 20 something years. I think I was 26 when I finally ended up going to therapy. So I held a lot in that just messed me up. And it was it was not easy. And I can tell you that you can talk to people. I'll tell you a couple different things. If it's happening to you, I would definitely say talk to people. I don't care what they got going on. You know, I don't care if you feel like a burden because you're definitely not. Uh, you know, it needs to be discussed. Otherwise, nothing gets fixed. Um, I can also tell you if you're trying to find out as a parent or as a concerned relative or anything like that, I will tell you you're gonna have to be compassionate. You're gonna have to be understanding. Um, but you're definitely going to have to be patient but persistent. As someone that has been through it, it's not an easy thing to open up about, and we will hide it because nobody wants to be seen in that light, you know. Um, it's not, again, it's not an easy conversation, you know, and I don't have any easy answers or anything, you know. Again, I wanted to make sure that at least somebody, if somebody listens, you know, they know that, okay, it it's happened and I'm not by myself. And that's honestly probably the only thing I wanted to do with this. You know, I didn't want to share it for sympathy. I didn't want to share it for a shock value. It 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 was never, it's never anything like that. Like when I share my stories, it is simply because I know growing up I had nothing to look at and say, hey, there's somebody else going through this. So it's important for me to get these out there. And with this one, I fought myself for a long time on. So I fought myself for the first 2 seasons of this podcast, and even up until I recorded this, going back and forth on if I wanted to put this out. Um, and to be perfectly candid, the reason I fought myself on it is the same reason I didn't say anything in the past, because I didn't want to upset people. And then I finally had to take a hard look at myself and say, if people are upset with this, that's not my issue. They can be upset if they are mad about me sharing a story. That's that's not on me. I'm putting this out there so that if somebody needs it, it's there. And again, if you are that somebody and you don't feel you have anybody you can talk to, you can talk to me. You know, the I'm on all the social media platforms, or at least most of them. My email's there. I'll answer messages. However, you got to get it to me. Doesn't matter. If you need to talk to somebody and you don't have anybody, I'll be your somebody. I have no problem with that. So I, I don't really know if there's anything else I need to say on this. And if you made it through all this, then I appreciate you guys a ton. It was it was not an easy listen. And I'm sure you can hear my voice got more gravelly as I went on because I've teared up and stuff a little bit. So I apologize for that. Um, but really, everyone that listens, I love you guys. And I'm here if you guys need anything at all. And I hope this episode, at least, I hope if somebody needs it, it helps them. So I will talk to you guys soon. All right. If you managed to make it through that, again, I thank you so much. Make sure that you're obviously liking, subscribing, and following the podcast wherever you listen. Follow me on the socials, Sticko Podcast. Again, pretty much everywhere you can find it: Facebook, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, all that stuff. Send me an email, stickopodcast@gmail.com. We are also working on getting an official website for the podcast, so that should be soon. And much like I said during the episode, if you're experiencing anything like this, if you are in any kind of abusive relationship, anything like that, find some way to reach out to people in those situations. And again, if it has to be me, that's okay. You can reach out to me. I don't mind. But silence in these situations is a killer. It doesn't benefit anyone to just stay quiet. And even after you let somebody know, even after you get out of those situations and move past it, always remember that your potential is always greater than your trauma. So until next time, be safe. Don't be a stranger.